Hello again, welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is BGFH back for another iOS video, and actually a long overdue iOS video. So, at the end of the XREC recordings series, I had given you guys my brief thoughts on iOS 7 as it was just coming out. And I wanted to be able to show you guys some of the differences, some of the things I like, some of the things I don't particularly like. But I was not really able to do that directly because of the XREC incompatibility issues. But now that I have this full recording app going, Reflector, we can do that. And even better, I just realized, not only can I show you what it looks like, but I can show you what it looks like on both devices. So there's my phone, my iPhone 5. And the cool thing is that with this Reflector program, I can... Now I'm using my tablet here. Just give me 1 second. Perfect. Now I can show you both. So the cool thing is it will let you show two iOS devices at a time. Happy accident I just discovered. So yes, I will be able to show you on both the iPad and the iPhone interface. So here we go, iOS 7. You'll notice immediately, and you've probably already noticed it even from looking at some of the home screens on a couple of the earlier videos, if I've put them up there already, that the interface is a lot more... They've gotten rid of a lot of the realistic look, you know, where a physical calendar is for the calendar, you know, the phone is an actual phone, a lot of the real-world objects, and now they're just looking like just flat icons. The interface themselves are a lot flatter. They're a lot more pastel colors. Kind of, I don't want to say... they just have a really flat look to them, and I'm not a huge fan, but, you know, they're workable. Let's pop into... I want to show you for sure right away the accessibility features built into iOS 7, because some things have changed, and there are some things that I think it's really worth knowing about. So we have our settings up here on both devices. I am going to go Cellular Control Center. This is going to be a little tricky, so bear with me as I try to manage both of these devices at once. Let's go to, let's see. Oh. General. Accessibility. Now, I'm not using any external speakers, but I will try to hold both of the devices up to the microphone so that you can hear them. I have the volumes on each of them fairly loud. So, under accessibility, I think I'll use my iPad mainly to drive because it's a bigger screen, but I will kind of point things out on the phone as well. So I'm just going to go through, I'm not going to go into each one of these items, but I will explain some of the differences. So we'll start out. VoiceOver on. Button. VoiceOver, that's the same. Invert zoom on. Zoom is on. Oh, wait, what? Invert zoom on. Oh, I didn't realize zoom was on my iPad. I just have it all the way zoomed out. Okay, fair enough. Also, even on the general settings, remember that accessibility used to be almost the last item in the list under general. So now they've actually moved it up a lot higher and kind of, you know, seemingly made it more of an important feature, saying, hey, you can see this on the first screen. It's going to stand out for you, and most people will see it more than they would because they're not having to scroll all the way down to the bottom. So, invert colors. Off. Invert colors, that's the same. Speak selection. Off. Speak auto text. Those are all the same so far. Now for low vision things, we have larger type, which we can do, just like we used to. Now bold text, I have that on because when you first start up iOS 7, a lot of the text in the menus and a lot of the interface in just a lot of iOS in general is pretty dim. It's, really kind of they're a lot thinner font. They're a lot, they're a little bit harder to see, especially if you are low vision. So that can definitely be a problem. And I would have shown you what it was like without it. But for some reason, that setting, when you change it, you actually have to restart your device, and therefore it would kick me out of the mirroring mode, so I'm not going to do that. But just note that if you are low vision, one of the first things I would recommend you change is enable bold text.
Increase contrast. On.
Another thing you definitely want to do, and I know a lot of people, these two settings here, I know a lot of people who have perfect vision, who they don't like a lot of the new iOS changes, and they find some of the interface to be problematic, shall we say, or less than desirable. So bold text is one, and increase contrast. You remember in iOS 6 how, across the bottom of a lot of windows you would have tabs for different things, and they were either black or some other type of gray gradient, that kind of thing. Well, no more. Look at this section
On-off labels.
On-off labels. You look at right under there, you notice that little bit of a difference. It's not very dark gray, but there is a subtle difference there. The borders and things don't stand out near the way they used to, and that's with increased brightness on. Or increase contrast is on. So with that off, it's worse, to put it mildly. So I would highly recommend turning that feature on as well.
Reduce motion. On.
Reduce motion. Again, when you start iOS, there are a lot of new kind of weird little whiz-bang graphical features that really don't need to be on. I mean, okay, they look kind of interesting the first 2-3 times you see them, but then you're just like, you know what? I tapped an app. I want something to open. I don't want to wait for this goofy transition, whatever. So like when you go to the home screen, it'll do this kind of fade and like zoom, swoosh out, that kind of thing. And I haven't noticed much of a difference really. Maybe on older devices it makes more of a difference, but I've heard a lot of people say that VoiceOver works better if you turn that feature off, that it works faster and it responds faster. So I can't really confirm that. I've tried it both ways and it doesn't seem to make a huge amount of difference for me, but that's one thing worth noting. So that's a feature that I guess it's up to you. I will say that is one feature also that some people, there's been some stories about people saying that people who get motion sickness from certain types of movements have reported problems with that motion stuff going on. So also enabling this reduced motion will help with that if you do encounter any of those things as well.
Reduce motion. On-off labels.
On-off labels.
Double tap to
I'm not entirely sure
increase contrast. Reduce motion.
what that is, to be fair. So I'm not sure. I won't want to
Hearing. Heading.
speak too much about that. So under hearing aids,
Subtitles captioning. Button.
subtitles captioning. Now, with VoiceOver on here, on my iPad, I'm going to point out one bug that is kind of obnoxious with VoiceOver, and that it took me a while to figure out because I thought I was just doing something wrong or that there was something screwy with my iPad. But I have it locked in landscape mode right now, And normally, if you're a VoiceOver user, you know that you flick up and down with 3 fingers to scroll up and down by one screen at a time. Like on my phone, if I take 3 fingers and go yoink.
Rows 1 to 9 of 22. Rows 8 to 16 of 22.
So there you go. I can do that. However, with the iPad, that works perfectly if you're in portrait orientation. However, they kind of screwed something up, and I cannot take 3 fingers. If I try to take 3 fingers and flick up or down, all I hear is dunk.
Settings. Heading.
Oops, I did not mean to do that.
Selected. Settings. Head about. Selected. General.
Sorry. Instead,
Selected. Accessibility.
let's go back in here again.
Selected. Settings. Vision. Heading.
Hush. Again, what you have to do is it doesn't change that particular gesture for VoiceOver out of portrait mode. So when you're in landscape, I actually have to take 3 fingers and flick
Control center.
left or right. And I didn't have something selected.
Bold text. On.
Okay, can't go that way.
Rows 8 to
So
19 of 19.
I actually have to flick to the right to go down and left to go up.
Rows
And I
19
actually
of
get that
19.
confused, so that's why I kind of fumble with that kind of control on the iPad sometimes. I still do, even just using the device, because I'm so used to, yeah, you should just be able to go up and down. But, so if you are having trouble with that and you are using an iPad with VoiceOver, it's not just you. I'm hoping they fix that with a future update, or for sure in 7.1, which is supposed to be coming either late February or sometime in March. We're not sure yet, but I do want to point that out because it is kind of a frustrating, one of the more frustrating VoiceOver bugs in iOS 7.
Rows 8 to 19
So
of
we're in
19.
hearing.
Heading. Hearing aids. Button.
We got hearing
Subtitles
aids.
Captioning. Button.
Subtitles
Subtitles captioning.
captioning,
Mono audio.
mono audio,
Double tap to
and then
toggle
our
setting.
balance. So all those are the same.
Guided access. Off.
Guided access. Again, I haven't really played with that a whole lot. I explained that in one of the earlier videos.
Switch control. Off. Physical motor.
Physical motor.
Switch control.
Now they have switch control, which is actually really nice for people who are not able to, they don't have the physical dexterity in order to do all the gestures and things like that. So there are, what it'll do is it'll cycle through the different elements on the screen, and when the one is highlighted that you want, you hit your switch and it'll perform the action, like opening an app, activating a button, and going into a text box, whatever.
Assistive touch. Off.
Assistive touch, haven't played with that a whole lot either, to be honest with you.
Default. Home click speed.
Home click speed. So again, if someone cannot, let's say you want to do the double tap to bring up your task switcher, if someone is not able to do that quickly, you're able to adjust the sensitivity and speed of that.
Accessibility shortcut. VoiceOver.
Now, accessibility shortcut, and I have it set to VoiceOver. Now, originally in iOS 6, I want to go in here really quick
Settings.
because
Triple click the home button.
it
for-
works differently than it used to. Like I think it was in iOS 5, and I just forgot when I was doing the iOS 6 accessibility video. Normally what it used to do is at the bottom you would have a choice that says ask. So do I want to run VoiceOver? Do I want to run Zoom? Do I want to do any of these other things? Or ask. Instead now I could have
Selected. VoiceOver.
VoiceOver is selected. If I wanted it to activate one of these others or ask me for one of these other ones, all I have to do
Zoom.
is if I wanted to say, do I want to turn VoiceOver or Zoom on, I can check the things or uncheck the things that I don't want or want to have enabled. So that's changed a little bit as to how working with the triple click home accessibility shortcut works. So now you notice on the top, remember when I said a lot of the buttons and things are gone? You remember how you'd have like physical looking buttons in the iOS 6 interface. Now,
Accessibility. Back button.
the accessibility back button, it says button,
Accessibility. Back button.
But it doesn't look like a button anymore. It looks just like plain text. And that is what they've done all across the iOS interface. You don't get a lot of buttons anymore. You don't get that. So, again up here,
General. Back button.
back button.
Settings.
Again, if I do it on my phone, let's see here. Let me grab my phone.
General. Back button. LED flash for alerts. General. Back subtitles at general. Back.
Kind of hard to hold both devices and try to
Settings. Back button.
do this at the same time. So you get the idea. In this part, it's not so bad, but when you get to other applications, it can be more of a problem, and I'll show you that here shortly. So I'm at the home screen on both devices again, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you guys one of the things I do really like in iOS 7. I love how they've changed the task switcher. So double tapping the home button.
App switcher. Home. Swipe up with 3 fingers to close the app.
Okay, so instead of having the little bar across the bottom of the screen like you would just having your little, you have your little shortcut bar on the bottom there. Now instead you have these little tiles that are full screen representations of what is going on in your device. So if I...
Page 2 of 3.
Okay.
Page 3 of 3. Safari. Page 2 of 3.
And what's also really nice about this is, let's say that I do not want settings open anymore.
Settings.
Settings.
Swipe
I
up with
can...
3 page 3
Oh.
of 3. Settings.
This landscape side business is really annoying. But what I can do is I can swipe with 3 fingers up. It just gets rid of the app. I don't have to double tap and hold, wait for the goofy sound effect. I don't have to do any of that. So again, I'll grab my phone, which will work a lot better because I don't have to think about reversing the gestures on the like I do on the iPad right now. 3 finger flick up, gone. And if I want to close that, let's close that too. App Store, close that. Voice Stream, close that. Let's close that. Keep things as clean as we can. So you notice how quickly, just boom, I can just flick to the right with 1 finger, flick to the left with 1 finger, switch between things. If I double tap on them, they'll open. If I swipe up with 3 fingers, they're gone. They're just closed. So, and like I said, if you have low vision, just having that nice little, thumbnail tile of a full screen preview of what you're doing in the app, you're like, oh, okay, that's what that app is. And just being able to jump in there. I really do like, that's one of my favorite new things, I think, in the task in iOS 7 is the new task manager. So, now I'll show you the new control center. Let's go up here. Notification center. That's what I meant to say. So I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going to do this, I decided, on the phone just because I can't get used to the awkward backwardsness of those left and right, up and down landscape gestures in with VoiceOver on the iPad. So when I do want to point out something differently, I will show you also on the iPad. But we'll continue on the phone here for a little bit. So with our notification center, now we have tabs actually across the top.
Selected. Today.
So today,
Sunday, February 16th.
okay, that's when I'm recording this.
Mostly sunny currently. The high will be 19 degrees. Cloudy tonight with a low of 18 degrees.
Great. Glad I don't have to go outside. Although that's pretty much a heat wave compared to what we've been having. Anyway. And if I had any appointments today, if it was like a work week or if I was using it on my work phone, I would also be given a list of my appointments and events. Now also across the top,
All. Button.
we have
2 of 3.
all,
Selected. All.
and
2
these
of
are
3.
just all kinds of notifications that I have that are...
Weather radio. 9 hours ago.
I have a
Winter
weather
storm
radio,
warning for
weather
St.
storm warning, fantastic.
Paul. YDKJ. 20 hours ago.
You don't know
Introducing
Jack.
word cuts. A free word game with Bob.
Good for you.
Solara. 3 hours ago.
Solara, I gotta I gotta collect all my money in Solara again, apparently. So, just like before, if I want to, I'm gonna touch this weather radio one, the top one. I'm gonna flick to the left. I'm on the clear section. I'll double tap. Confirm clear section. Boom, gone. So, it's that easy to use the notification center. And I have a third tab across the top, Mist. This is a game I may cover on the channel when it becomes a little bit more accessible. It's partially accessible right now, but it's kind of this neat concept of you can kind of use it as a pedometer, and it's an actual game where you go on these little missions and you get audio files. The more you walk, you're trying to walk, you know, across this huge in-game world or whatever, and the more you walk in real life, you unlock little story sequences and stuff like that. So I hopefully will cover that on the channel, because I know they were planning on making some voiceover improvements to that, but that's what that notification is. And my Solara. So I have Today, All, and Mist as tabs in my new notification center under iOS 7. A new feature that you've kind of seen in a couple of these new videos so far is the new Control Center, which is long overdue. It should have been in there 3 versions ago. But if I go up to the notification center and then I go lower on the screen and I swipe up with 3 fingers, you have your Control Center. And I think I talked a little bit about this during the XREC videos, and this is just like a quick way to open up a couple of applications, do some toggles of settings. There's a few media control buttons here.
Airplane mode.
So I can turn airplane mode,
Wi-Fi on.
Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, do not disturb,
Brightness.
my brightness control, and then I've got my media controls on the next row,
AirDrop. Contacts only.
AirDrop,
Jesse desktop.
and AirPlay, which I'm currently using. I'm currently on Jesse desktop right now, my computer. And then on the bottom you have
Flashlight. Button.
flashlight, clock, calculator,
Camera.
and camera. So those are apps that Apple just puts right in there. I kind of wish that you could change those. I mean, a couple of them are kind of handy on occasion, but I really probably don't use some of those very often. So if I could really put a shortcut to something that I always use there, I might change those if I could, but not a big deal. Nevertheless, it's a convenient thing to have. I do end up using it quite a bit if I want to, quick change, toggle Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or something like that. Let me show it to you on the iPad. I'm going to kill VoiceOver. Then I can use normal gestures and avoid this backwards nonsense. So, because I have a larger screen, I have plenty more room. It takes up less real estate there. But you have a lot of the same controls. You got your media controls on the left, your toggles, your AirPlay, your brightness, all that kind of stuff. So just a quick little tool that you have available to you there. I'm going to go to Safari now because I want to show you, like I said, some of the interface things. As a blind user using VoiceOver, other than a couple weird bugs here and there, there's a screen lock bug where it says screen locked, and people have complained about that. It repeats that after you turn off the display. Yeah, it's minorly obnoxious, but I really don't care because I ignore it anyway. So it'll be fixed eventually. I think they really need to fix the weird backwards gesture thing on the iPad first. But as a VoiceOver user, VoiceOver has actually really helped me use iOS 7 as a low vision user compared to what I would normally have to do if I were in fact using Zoom. So let me go into Safari real quick
Safari.
on my phone, and I will do it on my tablet too. And for your convenience, I've loaded up the same web page on both just so you have a fair point of reference. I got Joystick up there, gaming website that I follow fairly regularly. So notice that you remember how, like I said, you had at the top of the screen or at the bottom of the screen, you had this separate kind of gray or gradient interface look where you could control, you could see that, oh, this isn't part of the main web page, or this isn't part of the main window. Now everything just blends a lot more together, because look at the top of the screen.
Address button.
On the phone.
The URL.
It doesn't stand out. I mean, there's a little banner there, but then it's white, and on the top it's white.
Button.
All the icons are very...
Reload button.
The reload button in the upper right.
1:49 p.m.
Even the
Status
notification,
bar
the status
Reload
bar item up
button.
there, everything is white. It's blending in together. It's very light colored. As a low vision user, especially on the phone, it's a nightmare. So I would much prefer to use VoiceOver to more quickly and easily be able to access that information. Again, on the phone, look at the bottom.
Back button.
I have the back,
Forward.
forward,
Share.
share,
Bookmarks.
bookmark,
Pages.
pages. Now, look at how light these icons are. I'm have my face like right up to it, and it just looks terrible. Again, it's light. It's a light background, blends right into the web page above it, and not only that, the icons themselves are not that bold. They're not that dark. The bolded text setting does not seem to really apply to like buttons and interface elements. So there's a lot of visually impaired, low vision users who are very not happy if they generally use their eyesight and magnification that use iOS 7. There's a lot of people not happy about that, and for good reason. Yes, I understand going for a different look. I understand a flatter, different style. But there's a difference between making it look pretty and actually making it look usable. And I think they really kind of screwed that up. But the good news, hopefully, is that iOS 7.1, like I said, fully sighted users are complaining about not being able to see some of these things as well either, and they're not a big fan. So in iOS 7.1, that again is supposed to be coming out sometime maybe late February, early March, it's supposed to fix some of these visual issues, add some more contrast, make things maybe more readable, and I hope to God that is the case. Not only that, I would love to see, not having to necessarily invert colors for everything, but I would love to see, there's a couple apps that use like what they call a night mode. I think TomTom does it, the GPS app, where normally everything, the menus and stuff are white, but at night you can switch it to like, kind of a reverse contrast where it keeps all the colors, for maps and things normal, but the actual background, it switches it to be more of a darker gray and then white text. So I would love Apple to see them have a system-wide system scheme that doesn't screw with your colors, but still gives you some of that inverse brightness contrast in the future. I don't know if they will, but God, I would love to see it. So looking at the iPad, hush, let's pull up the iPad for a minute. And again, I have VoiceOver off, so I don't have to worry about some of this nonsense. All my controls are up at the top here because I have, again, more screen real estate. I can scroll up and down. there. But the icons themselves, again, we got this whole white look, really light colored look for the actual program interface. And the apps are very, very dim. Look at the back and forward button. Look at the share button. Everything just has this pastel. That's what it was. I was trying to think of it early on in the video. I've heard iOS 7 when it first came out. Somebody described it as like an Easter egg color. You've got these light, not really bright colors, but just kind of this, like I said, pastel looking style, which I think is actually pretty accurate. So, yeah, that I do not like. And most apps will follow this trend. If an app has been updated for the iOS 7 interface look, it's generally going to have this really flat, really white, really harder to see look to them. So that's a real bummer. Just like on the old Safari for the iPad, you also have the tabs. Oops, I didn't want to do that. Here, let's do this. Yoink. Okay, joystick. There we go. So we got some kind of giant bomb thing there. So the tabs are just like on a desktop browser. You have the tabs that you can just touch. And then a little closed tab on the left side of the active one. So that has stayed the same, but again, a little tough to see, at least in my opinion. Let me open up the tabs thing on my phone, because that looks different. I don't really like this. I get what they were going for. They're going for like a little flipbook Rolodex kind of thing. So you've got these, different, you see like a little, like you're holding a little, flip cards up and getting a little preview of a full web page. I get that. But I kind of wish it was more like the new task switcher, or the way that tabs used to function in the old Safari, where you would just flick left and right and then open up the tab that you wanted. The thing that I don't really like is that you can't, if you have voiceover on,
St. Paul, Minnesota.
you cannot touch anywhere on one of these tabs and go to it. You actually have to find the very top, like almost where the title bar would be for that piece of the Rolodex, for each little card in the flip book here. So if I'm moving in the middle of the giant bomb one up here on my phone.
Final Fantasies have showed you its PS4 specific features.
And all this space in the middle, it's just nothing. So you have to kind of find
Joystick button.
that particular part. You have to find the top of the window. Visually it's kind of neat, but functionally I think it could have been done a little bit better. Now you can, if you're using VoiceOver, you can flick left and right with one finger.
Close tab for Final Fantasies have showed. Close tab for Audible. Audible.com. Close tab for St. Paul.
So let's say I wanted the St. Paul weather.
Weather underground. Link. Image.
So it's easier to use, but if you're wanting to do it like with vision, like a combination of VoiceOver and low vision, it's a little bit, I think, clunkier than it has to be. Neat idea, but not so sure it's my favorite way to do it. So that is kind of a look at Safari and a look at how iOS looks in general. So really those are the main things I think that stand out as iOS 7 is right now. You have your new notification center look. You have your new accessibility features. You have your new control center. You have your new task switcher, which I really like. And then you just have, like I said, again, functionally, if you're a voiceover user, there'll be a few differences here and there, but you largely shouldn't notice a whole lot. If you're a low vision user, and this is what I was kind of trying to get across in my old wrap-up video under XREC, was that if you're a low vision user and you want to use your vision not so much with voiceover, I would say that that's where you're gonna have more problems, and you are probably not going to be a fan of the interface. I'm going to try something and hope to God that it works, seeing as how I have the zoom on my iPad. I'm going to go into Safari again, and I'm going to zoom in. Oh, okay, that's flickering like mad. Okay, I apologize. Okay, that pissed it off. Note to self, do not use zoom because Reflector does not like that. Yeah, okay. We will not do that. That's a bummer. But I was going to show you that even with magnification on, the interface is still really dim. So magnification will help to some degree, but the contrast, unfortunately, just isn't there. So that's kind of a quick overview of iOS 7, both on the iPhone and the iPad, showing you them side by side. And like I said, there's a lot of good to it. I think it runs fast. I like some of the new functionality. I like some of the new features that it's added. And overall, VoiceOver is not bad. It works pretty well. I really want them to fix that weird navigation issue on the tablet side, but otherwise it works pretty well for what I use it for. It's just the low vision stuff that really gives me a problem. So let's close out of that, and there we go. So hopefully that gives you a more, not just talking about it, but physically showing you. Hopefully that gives you a better idea of what iOS 7 is like if you have not, for whatever reason, updated your device to iOS 7. Should you? Do you want to? I don't know. If you are a VoiceOver user, I would say, yeah, go for it. It's really not going to hurt. It generally performs pretty well. If you are a low vision user, I'll leave the judgment up to you as to whether you do that. I can see where you may not want to at this time. I'm hoping, again, that 7.1 addresses a lot of these contrast issues. So we shall see when that comes out, and when 7.1 does come out, it should not hopefully break my Reflector program. So I will again bring you some interface changes, show you some of those